What's up, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank y'all always so much for being here. I am kind of uncomfortable out here. It's been raining a lot, and I don't have a proper space to sit, but I felt like coming out here, being with the water. So we out here anyway. So thank y'all for being with me. This week is kind of a funny one because it's still like big retrograde vibes, you know what I mean? Like, it has been retrograde vibes literally all year. All of 2025 so far has been the story of retrogrades. We had a Mars retrograde in Cancer. Mars is still in Cancer, and Mars is now moving forward, but still in Cancer and ruling the lunation that we get this week. So we've got a new moon in Aries that is going to be taking place this week. All the astrologers are talking about this as an eclipse. I'm not personally sold on it. It's like 13 degrees away from the nodes. You're not gonna notice it. You're not gonna visually see it as an eclipse. Like, it meets technical definitions of an eclipse barely. So eclipses do come in twos. We just had an eclipse in Virgo. That one was a real big deal. This one is on the north node, sort of. And to me, it looks more unstable than you would otherwise want a solar, a lunation to be, like a new moon, a new moon in Aries. You want that to be powerful and to move forward on things. And it looks unstable. It looks like this is a moment where, because it's ruled by this Mars in Cancer, so it's still super sensitive. It's still gonna like have all these feelings and be kind of led from this place of sensitivity, and often there's a feeling of insecurity associated with that Mars in Cancer. Like, Mars in Cancer knows that there is vulnerability, and as such feels like it has to lash out or something like that. And so we might see some of that going on, especially since we still got, so I mentioned it's like all retrograde, everything. We still got Mercury retrograde. We still got Venus retrograde. In fact, those folks, so we're going to see a Mercury Cazimi. We do like to see a Mercury Cazimi. Mercury, that's going to be Mercury in the heart of the sun. That's going to be sort of like, generally there's something of an aha moment or a eureka, like a moment of understanding or clarification that can show up, because Mercury retrograde is going to be associated with things that are like misunderstandings and wires getting crossed and stuff getting shipped to the wrong place, or these kinds of things, right? And so Mercury Cazimi moving into the heart of the sun. One of the things I always say about a Cazimi is that it's like a special message from the king, and so there's a certain sense of like, oh yes, that now if we're looking at like special message from the king, then like executive order and this kind of thing might show up here. And there's especially in Aries, there might be a certain sense of like strongman rulership, especially a strongman who sees himself in a position of weakness, like trying to come in and just be like, I said what I said, and so it's gonna be like that. We might see some more of that sort of thing going on. It's in Aries, so I would expect it to be kind of loud and brash, whatever happens, whatever things happen. And the reactions to that, I would expect all of that to be pretty loud today or this week, and not even necessarily, on the American political stage. You know what I mean? Like, there's like, even in your personal situation, where whatever your like business thing is, or whatever it is that you're like trying to do in your life, like having that kind of like, we're moving forward on the thing, and it feels right or laudable in some kind of way. Like, I don't really trust all that this week. It feels like there is much uncertainty about what's going on. We can notice that Venus is still retrograde, and so Venus is going to be the one who's going to have to do with like values and the things that like feel good, and like feel good stuff doesn't feel as good as you want it to during a Venus retrograde. And Venus is actually going to move back from Aries into Pisces. This is Venus moving into exaltation, but retrograde in the exalted place, right? So the things that are normally so delicious and feel so good and connected and harmonious and all of that, like that's going to be Venus moving into the place where the North Node is. Generally, the North Node can be like kind of confusing and can do the most in this kind of thing. But, doing the most pleasure typically feels pretty good. We typically tend to, like, if the North Node is going to be good with any planet, Venus is the one you want. But it's like more confusion around the pleasure dynamics and this kind of thing. So like there is discomfort that is built into the situation this week that looks like it can turn into rash and brash decision making. So it's something to like really be aware of, and like, as long as there are big retrograde things going on, which we have for another few weeks here. We're looking at a Venus retrograde for another like almost 3 weeks, I think. And Mercury is going to be retrograde for another 2 weeks, and Mercury, and both of those are going to station direct in Pisces, conjunct Saturn on the North Node. So like, as long as that sort of stuff is going on here, then we're not looking at clear forward motion. We're not looking at like, oh, the path makes sense and so we're going to go forward on it. We're still in this space where it's like, okay, Mars in Cancer, feeling big feelings, and then not necessarily sure what to think about that. And so doing a lot of sifting, like sifting through the emotional space, sifting through the kinds of things that make me feel sensitive. Like, if there is a kind of vulnerability in connection that's important to the pleasure of it, right? Like we can think about like sex or something like that. Like it's like super sensitive parts are involved, right? Like, and the sensitivity is what makes it fun, but the sensitivity is also what makes it dangerous. And so that kind of situation, and like really feeling into like, well, what do I actually like? What do I actually want? Maybe the things that I used to think that I wanted, maybe I don't want those things anymore. And maybe I need to, if we're in an eclipse-y kind of space, then maybe there's a sense of like, I need to, like, there's a shadow across it. And so there's a certain kind of uncertainty around it. And maybe I'm gonna have to change my view of who I am and what I am and what's going on here in order to make a better play for myself. Speaking of making a better play for myself, if you want to get a reading and check out, and you want to hear me vamp on like what's going on with you specifically, because this is going to be interacting with your chart in a very specific kind of way that I can't speak to when I'm talking to everybody like this. If you want to get a reading, go to zambonifunk.com. Those get great reviews all the time. People really love them. They're super affordable. It's $30 for a 10-minute reading. Or if you want to talk back and forth, we can do that via Zoom and talk for an hour. Those are super fun for me and typically enjoyable for other people as well. So all of that is available at zambonifunk.com. Go check it out. And while you're there, don't forget to listen to the music. Here's one of the covers. Shout out to Odd Minds for making these covers for me. Check out all that shit, zambonifunk.com. It's a good time to get a reading or something like that because there's so much uncertainty. It's like the information is unclear and continues to be unclear this week. And they're under a new moon, or maybe it's a solar eclipse or whatever it is. Like, this doesn't look like the kind of thing that has, it's gonna be seed planting. That's what a new moon is, right? It's a seed planting moment. But maybe you don't know what seed you're planting in this moment. And so getting some good recon, some good information about the situation can maybe help you to plant seeds in such a way that they bear fruit that will actually be delightful to you once we figure out what delight even am again. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all y'all. Thank you so much. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about things. Appreciate you. Peace and blessings.